What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in the We'll Fix It team. Today, Radiator, an '03 Toyota Camry. It's an oldie but goldie. What a sweet lady, too. I've been working on this car for a long time. I even had put an engine in this car at one point because of some other people. That's how I ended up becoming her kind of a go-to guy, because she had taken it to another place, and this was several years ago, and the car was mishandled terribly at another service station or another garage. And I got it back up and running for her and everything. And she's been bringing me vehicles ever since. I've worked on her son's vehicles, and I've worked on uh, her sister's, her mom's. It's like, wow, what a great thing. So today, this little car here, I swear to you, has like over 400,000 miles on it now. This Toyota Camry does, and she just keeps it up. She just keeps putting a little bit here and there on it, and keeps going. So I'm going to switch the camera over and give you a little bit of a rundown of where we're at here. So let me get this thing moved around here, guys, because this is, of course, really, I've got a lot of invested in production here. So here's the vehicle, and I'm going to come up to the front there. And so to get this radiator out, it's I don't think it's one of the not as bad jobs. I started kind of removing stuff, and I said this would be a great video to do. So I prefer to just unbolt the horns, because the connectors are so old that if you push these in, they're going to go, there's just not going to be anything left hardly to keep them snapped in. So to avoid any damage to that, I'm just going to just unbolt these and just set them down, just let them kind of hang dangle. They'll be okay. The excuse me, the hood latch has been removed. Fortunately, your Toyotas and a lot of your vehicles, they'll leave a paint mark, but the bolts have steps in them. One of them right here. They have little mini steps in them. It's kind of hard to see in the camera here, but that way they kind of latch into the holes right here and provide a pretty good alignment for the hood latch. So what we'll do now is this will be fine. We'll just let that dangle with it, but we'll remove these 12mm bolts. We have our handy dandy 12mm bolt removal. These were 10s that held that on. Also, you'll see a middle brace as well. We'll go ahead and we'll get that gone. It's just a regular bolt stuck in my socket. Yep, that's a little trick I use. Maybe, if this is a first timer for anybody. And then we'll just remove the remaining two 12mm bolts. Now I'm just gonna let them just sort of, they'll be fine. There's even a little bit of a bumper section in the front that'll hold it. Now I'm just going to thread the bolts back in, because that just doesn't take but a second. There's no question where that bolt went when I'm putting it back together. Like, oh, where'd it go? We'll just pull that down, and I just pulled that back a little bit because it's kind of difficult to remove from the airbox, and I don't think it's going to provide too much of a resistance. Got a few more 10mm bolts to get hold of here. Let's see here. Some of this stuff has been on there for a long time, guys. Please don't mind the minor pause there. I had to go 6-point on that thing. Yeah, there you go. So I'm kind of glad that happened. I'm going to show you a little difference right quick while we got that going here. You noticed, you probably seen that socket's made a weird noise and it stripped. It didn't strip the bolt, but it just didn't want to get a very good hold of it. And this socket has 12 little points in it. It's called 12-point. This one here has just 6. See if I can get a light in there. You can see where, sorry about the lighting here, because of the fact that we're in it's just a little rundown. So you can see there's like hex sides on this 6-point socket. And then you've got just on this one here, you've got a bunch of little points. I know the camera's not wanting to focus. There it goes. And that provides, that's a 12-point socket. And they have their place. A 12-point socket can get you in a lot of tight places sometimes, but a 6-point socket, especially on drain plugs on radiators, or I'm sorry, on oil pans. We got radiator on mine. That 6-point socket is your go-to. I try to use 6-point as much as I can. I just grabbed this one because it was right there in front of the toolbox. I should have went the extra step, but we got the bolt broke loose, and we'll use this 6-point from here on out. But let that be a lesson for everybody. You've seen it happen in real time. So we'll keep the 6-point theme going. There are some bolts that are specifically 12-point. You don't need that socket, but look, no problems there. So if you're going to be doing like work on vehicles, try to find a socket set with 6 points. Now, combination wrenches that have 6 points, I'm going to give you a little rundown on that. You'll see that this wrench has all the 12 points on it. There's a reason for that, because it provides a lot of multiple positions for doing this. But they make 6-point wrenches that I use for oil drain plugs specifically, and I'll grab that up and I'll show you in one of the videos of what a 6-point wrench. I'll find that in a little bit. We're gonna stay on track here, guys. But yeah, there's 6-point sockets and wrenches are the way to go if you can use them. This is the top radiator support, guys, so I can just take this off. We'll move it out of the way. We've got a top radiator hose. We'll go ahead and get our drain pan, because I know that's going to... That may look a little too cooling on that one. I don't know. See. There's a bottom radiator hose. We'll get to that in a minute. Just taking this loose from the top. I'm using my cheater little 8mm socket. Right, we got that in there. So my plan is just to pull the fan shroud and everything out all as one happy fun unit. Then I'll swap the fan shroud out once I get the radiator on the floor. So we've got that. We've got a lot going on right here now. So we've got a couple of transmission cooler lines that are down at the bottom. We're gonna move shit underneath here. But let me just I'll get my light and I'm gonna give you a little rundown of where we're at here. As you can see, we've got a top support out of it, and I've just unplugged the fans from the harness and just laid the harness up there. It was not hard to do. So now there's some couple of in-transmission cooler lines that go into the radiator at the bottom. We'll go underneath and get those loose, and we'll plug those off and don't lose all the fluid. And there's a bottom hose we'll be removing as well. Okay, so let's see here. That strange sound you hear, that is the radiator. I've got the drain on it. We'll let that drain for a little bit. And we've got this Ford Freestyle. I think this is it's a Freestyle. Yeah, anyhow, I got new coil packs on it. New plugs, but it's been a little bit, but they're not that old. And I've got a cylinder 2 misfire, which is in the back. And so while we're letting that drain down a little bit, we'll pull this intake off and see what's going on with that number 2 cylinder, because Ford, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So number 2 would be middle back. So let's get this thing off of there and jam along with it right quick, guys. So we're going to go underneath and start pulling the stuff up that's connected, like the little transmission cooler lines. And I've got some funny looking little things I'm going to use to plug those off. You'll like this. I keep things just because spark plugs work good for all kind of different things. That's going to use to plug these lines off with. Now, I got some long needle nose pliers and some basic tools. So let me set this camera down so we can look and see here. Let's see if I can get that in the shot there. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so I'll try not to kick the camera over. Yeah. All right. I'll probably hold off on that coolant line just for a little bit because it'll probably drop some coolant or water, whatever's left in that system. Basically, I want to get up underneath here. Just take the needle nose pliers and squeeze the clamps down and let them drop back, and take my pliers and kind of, I don't want to grab the line and try to pinch it, but I wanted to grab it enough to where I can wiggle it, and it should break loose off of the, sometimes it's pretty tough on there though, guys, so you don't want to strip the rubber out. There we go. You'll know when it starts to move, you can hear it. You want to, got that one. Other set of needle nose right here. All right there. Then I'll break this other one loose. And just want to slide it back. The top, these are just the transmission oil cooler lines now. I know I'm going to drop a little bit of fluid there, so I'll cut me some old rags. I'll just lay it down, and then here's my plug. We'll stick that in there. Take this one off. Stick that in there. All right. And I'll probably I'll squeeze the clamp and just drop it back over that, right? Yeah. That way, that seals off any fluid that might go all over the place. Now, the lower hose, I'm still getting a drip from something up here. I think it's the housing that's leaking on the thermostat, I think. And so, I gotta get into that in a minute, but let me see, let me get this. I'm taking off the bigger hose clamp now for the lower hose. I'm just going to use some pliers like this. There we go. It's got a little thing that'll keep it latched back, but you really want to be careful when you put your hands near that thing, because if it releases while you've got your hand in there and that latch back lets go, dude, let me tell you what. I did lose a little bit of fluid that went there. I don't want it to get in my, I have some coolant in that water that I can use, so to save it, we'll get that transmission fluid that tried to drip in there before it gets to my stuff. If it hadn't already, I'll look and see. Okay, we didn't lose, we'll have any coolant there. Alright, as far as I drained it down, but we just want to be sure. So now it's time to go back up to the top. Head up north again. Move myself up. And I've got most of the stuff unhooked up here, I do believe, so I think I can more than likely go ahead and just lift this thing right on out of here. We'll get us in focus there, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us on the Wheel Fix It team, by the way. You guys are awesome. Yeah, there we go. We are out of there. Now, I'm over here off to the side. Grab the camera again. This is the radiator assembly, or as I've removed it from the vehicle. I'm going to open up the new radiator. We're going to lay it beside it, and then we're going to swap everything over, and then we're just going to drop it right back in place there, and then hook the rest of the stuff back up. This right here is a little bit of a task, that tube getting by it, but I think I can deal with that. Okay, so I've got that's the old radiator, and it was split. It had a big old split. I pumped it up with pressure and it was spewing out. I think it was right there. There's a split right in this. The plastic's gotten old and it was just busted and just coming out the front. So anyhow, I've talked about this before when it comes to how these radiators operate. It's always cooler down here whenever the direction of coolant, like say for instance, it's coming out of the top headed this way, and it travels down the radiator and back out, and then back up through the motor, so it's cooled off. This end of the radiator just never gets hot as the top, and so you'll just see that part of the radiator deteriorate most of the time first, under most circumstances. And I've taken a wrench and I've just checked to ensure that this tight right here, it comes from the factory with that already on it. So I want to be sure that that's snug. So I check that before I get started. Then I just swap the fans out. So now what I get to do is on camera, see if I can finagle this back down in there. But it's not that bad. It's just the only thing that's going to be messing with me, guys, is that a thing that looks like something from that movie, from that game Jazz Ball from Nintendo. The first Nintendo had a game called Jazz Ball. That little thing would come up and suck the. Anyway, I don't know if y'all remember that, but we've got to work past that. Now we want to make sure that our mounts are in the proper position down here in the radiator frame down here. There's two little rubber mounts. Let me show you that right quick, guys. Let's see. There's one over here. I've got my hand on it. If you can see it or not. There's one there, and there's another one, same position down over here, and we just want to make sure they're in place, because that's a big deal. If those aren't there, then your new radiator can suffer some damage due to it just riding on the metal frame. So make sure they either stay in place or you take them off your old radiator. Now I want to get this fan in there first. I think get it down in there. We're at an angle. We're going. I think we're there. Yes. Guys, I believe we're almost there. We haven't what you call it, achieved full engagement, but I'll have to use my hand. I'll have to find the stud sticking off. There it goes. Drops down in there. Good. Now, we'll take and go ahead and put this radiator support back on top. Sometimes on some vehicles you have to wait on the radiator support because there's other things that go up underneath it, but I think we're safe. I'll just lay it on top right now, and that way it'll keep my radiator stable while I finish connecting the stuff at the bottom. Okay, so let's see here. Let me get down here. I'm trying to wonder if I should do this, but I guess if you don't mind hanging out with me while we work, we can get the stuff connected up together, guys. And I really appreciate you hanging out, like I say, watching these videos, everybody. The support on the channel is great. Thank you very much. A lot of love out there, guys. It's wonderful. And I send it back best I can. Let's see here. Now, thank goodness this is. They'd already had the plastic piece off, which was kind of was nice actually. Rubber caps. The rubber caps. Just push these little things off of there. Yeah. There's definitely something up there that's doing some leaking. I don't know what that is. I believe it's almost like the water pump. I can't check it because there's no way to pressurize the system because of the darn. The radiator was leaking so bad. So I have to get this on first. I think if the thermostat was leaking, it would be already leaked down enough. It's been sitting there dripping for a while. I had to stop the video and do some other stuff. Oh, snapples. It's always a good idea, too, and I'll show you. You want to try to line your clamp back up in its original position on your rubber hose, where you can see the clamp was already there. If you're reassembling this, you'll see where there was an imprint from the original clamp. You want to put that clamp back in that imprint. That's a big thing. I want to answer that phone right quick, guys. Okay, back at it again here. All right, we're gonna get this big old clamp back up on here. It's got these little latches that holds it. Sometimes they could be, somebody squashed them the wrong way. It's a little cumbersome, which is it's being right now. That's all right though. All right, now I got it back in its original position, like I say, where you can see the imprint on the hose. That's the big deal you want right there. You want it to be nice and in the proper place, which is good. Now we can go back up north again. Here's what we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to put some coolant in it, guys. Now that I'm gonna put the top hose on, I'm gonna have to put coolant in it and see where that leak is exactly. Because wow, it just keeps dripping, but it's dripping right underneath there. So maybe it's this thermostat housing, which I do have stuff for that order. It's something. There's something up here. So let's find out real quick. We're gonna get that done. So here we are. You can see that we've got a. Oop, I'm missing my pen. Woo. There it is, right there. Okay. Pumped it up with my little handy dandy pressure tester right here. You know, all jokes aside, you could actually you don't really need this, but if you do a careful, judgmental, you can take this spot here and you can blow air into this and pressurize this system much like this tool does. But it's very easy to put too much pressure in there. So I suggest not holding it right there on the nozzles. You can just take your finger and just kind of divert a little bit of air from your nozzle into there and then watch the tension of your top hose. When you see it start to tighten up, that gives you an idea that you've got some pressure on it. And you can find leaks like that too if you don't have this tool, as long as you have the radiator cap in place. FYI. But anyhow, I have isolated it to the thermostat housing. Of course, it's hard to tell by looking through this here camera, but it's pretty evident. You can see it leaking around the bottom corner of it, and it's an old plastic housing, which fortunately I noticed it leaking earlier, so I have it ordered. So at any given moment, it should be in today, and we'll get it on. So let's just we'll call this the radiator install. How about that? So basically, now that we've got all the stuff back in, you see me swap the fans out. You've seen the radiator go back down in there and pretty much just rebolt this here, match up your paint marks on this here when you put it back on. And, you know, when you shut the hood, just for always a quick measure, just don't slam it all the way down. Shut it easily. Make sure it latches like it should before you give it all you got so you don't jam something up. And this is pretty much a done deal. Now, I'll do a separate video on the thermostat replacement and what I do to get to it. And so get ready, guys, because that'll be the next one popping up here. Alrighty, so I think I'm in camera shot. I set this thing aside, trying to learn from Dave, not in Cali anymore, how to do things a little better with video. But we're working slowly but surely. Thank you very much for tuning in to We'll Fix It Team. That pretty much covers our radiator job. Next up, we put the thermostat in. Y'all have a good one. God is in control.